Hello everyone, welcome to Informatica Global Customer Support's video KB. The topic for today's video is reference lookups, which is a part of Product 360 introduced from 10.5 version. My name is N. Rao from Informatica Global Customer Support, and let's begin. So the agenda for today's video is we will first understand what exactly are lookups. It will not be a detailed explanation, but like a brief, because the detailed explanation on lookups and dynamic lookups have been made separately. You can refer to that. The second part of the video will cover what exactly reference lookups or dependent lookups means and how exactly do they work. The third part will refer to include type reference and an exclude type reference, which will be followed by a demo. So first let's try to understand what exactly are lookups. Consider that you have a field that has been qualified in your repository saying continent. Now, continent field cannot have any value. It can only have a value between the set of 7 continents that are present in the world. So, in this situation, we will need a field which will only limit the number of values and will not allow any value to be entered. And hence, the concept of lookups came into place, wherein we set up enumerations in order to limit the values that we enter in a field. So there are two types of enumerations which are supported by P360. One is static enumeration and the second is dynamic enumeration. So static enumerations are the ones wherein we need to add the values from the repository itself, whereas dynamic enumerations are the ones wherein we need to give values from the rich client itself, and we do not need to restart the servers every time a new value is added, unlike in static enumeration. For more details on enumeration and dynamic enumerations, you can refer to our dynamic enumeration video KB. Okay, coming back to the question of what are reference lookups. So, reference lookups can be defined as the relationship between the lookup values. They can be from the same lookup or they can be from the different lookups as well. Let us try to understand this with the help of an example. Consider that there are two characteristics. The parent characteristic is country and the child characteristic is state. Now, the country and child both are of lookup type characteristics, lookup value characteristics, and when I give the value to the country characteristic as India, I would want that the states of the Indian subcontinent should be visible in the state characteristics. At the same time, when I give the country as say Australia, I would want the state of Australia, the states of Australian subcontinent should be visible to us in the child characteristic. This can only be done if we define the relationship between the lookup which holds the country values and the lookup which hold the state values. There are two types of references which can be created between the two lookups, which is include reference and exclude reference. We will be able to understand this in a much better way when I start the demonstration. So let's jump to the demonstration. Okay, so currently we are in 10.5 EBF1 version, and in this version I have created two lookups which are dependent on each other. The first one is called custom manufacture 1 and the second one is called custom manufacture 2. You can name it anything that you want, the name is not the issue here. So now, how do we define the references between these two lookups? Okay, so if you go via the web UI, which I will shortly cover, you will have a different tab there, but via the rich client you have these two fields which are reference modes and reference values. Now, while selecting the reference mode and reference value, you have to select the lookup on which you are planning to create this reference. So here I am trying to create the reference on custom manufacturers 2. Therefore, I am selecting custom manufacturer 2 lookup here. So as I mentioned in the presentation, there are two types of lookups references. There are two types of lookup references. The first one is exclude and the second one is include. Now let's understand one by one what is exclude and what is include. So in these two examples that I have given, we can only see that Australia has only 8 states. So instead of selecting the 28, 29 states that India has, what I have done is I have selected the reference mode to be exclude, and I have excluded these 8 values from the drop down, which means that all the other values are automatically included. So what happens is when we exclude one value from a lookup, the remaining values will automatically be included. So when I selected the lookup value India in the custom manufacturers one lookup and have excluded these 8 values, that means that all the remaining values which I have not excluded will be included here. And the second type is include, which we can see in this lookup value, which is Australia lookup value, where I have included only the 8 Australian states that are present. Now, how does this work? I'll tell you. Let's choose a value from the Australian state, for example, New South Wales. Now, I'll go to the item which has the characteristic and I'll open the item characteristic record. Oh, sorry, let me just track this down. I'll go to the last item. So here I have given the value as Australia. Let me first change this to India, then I will tell you about Australia. So when I have changed this to India, from the drop down, I can see the values of only the Indian states. So for example, if I want to see something like New South Wales, I will not be able to see it because I have already excluded that value. So as I mentioned, since I have excluded the 8 values, I cannot see those 8 values, but apart from those 8 values, I can see all the remaining values. In the same way, consider this. If I have selected the parent characteristic value to be Australia, so here I will only be able to see these 8 values because I have included these values. So when we are using exclude type reference, the values which we have excluded will not be in the reference, while the values which we have not selected in the exclude reference will be there. For example, what we saw in India. So if I select India, I will not be able to see the Australian states because I have excluded the Australian states. Whereas when we include a value, we will only be able to see that value. So for example, in the Australian lookup value, I have included only 8 values. So here I cannot see any of the Indian states. Alright. Now, how do we define this relationship in the characteristic model? So let me close this and I'll quickly open the characteristic model. So first I'll define a category here, and inside the category, the first thing that I will do is I will create a lookup, say country, okay, and I have provided the lookup here, which is custom manufacturer. Now I will create a sub characteristic or a child characteristic, and here also when I will provide the lookup value, I will give this as lookup value, and the value provider would be lookup value of the parent characteristic. Now what this says is that this characteristic has to listen to the parent characteristic first. That is, it will first see the value present in the parent characteristic and check for the references. If there are no references present, then it will show all the values. But if there is a reference present, then it will not show those values, and it will only show the values which are in accordance to the reference that has been created. And coming to the web UI, so from the web UI, how we add a reference is as follows. We'll first go to the lookups view, go to the lookup and select a lookup value for which we want to include and exclude a value. From here, it's pretty much straightforward. We will click on plus, we'll click here, We'll select the lookup for which we want to add the reference, and we will click OK and close the browser window. Since I already have references added, I'm not adding it at the moment. Apart from this, we can use this to remove the references. We can filter the references according to lookup list or code or something like that, and we can even go to the parent lookup as well from the child level. So that's all about reference lookups and dependent lookups. We would love to hear from you. If you have any feedback, you can reach out to us at supportvideos@informatica.com, or you can reach out to us via Twitter support, https twitter.com/infasupport. Thank you so much for your time.